Morning, committee members and colleagues. Chairman Hope Blake, Deputy Financial Secretary in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and with me is Barrington Thomas, Principal Director of the Accounting and Financial Policy Branch.
And I know there are other members of the Houses of Parliament. Just introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Ms. Tiffany Stewart, Senior Legislative Counsel.
And you're also with the Parliament? Okay, well, just introduce yourselves, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie Hamilton. I'm the Senior Research Officer.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angelica Patterson, and I'm the Research Officer.
Okay. Madam Clerk, I'll invite you to introduce yourself and the team from the Parliament that are here. Is the mic on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hold, just turn it up, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Colleen Lowe, Clerk to the Houses of Parliament. To my right, I have Ms. Ashley Zemenes, Legislative Counsel. To my left, Ms. Terry-Ann Bury, the Director of Procurement. We also have Ms. Michelle Landels, who is a Senior Procurement Officer who acted as the Director of Procurement whilst the investigations were taking place. And we also have with us our new Transport Manager, Ms. Sophia Blair Cole, directly behind. And then to my right behind, we have the new Principal Finance Officer, Mr. Lushane Robinson. And then on the back, we have the Facilities and Office Manager, Mr. Renford Watson, along with the Marshal to the Houses, Mr. Wayne Blade, who is now providing direct supervisory report for the Facilities and Office Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, my namesake, I'm not a stickler for the dress code like the member from Southwest St. Catherine, but generally when you come in here, ensure that you have a tie, okay? All right. What we normally do, members, I'll invite the Auditor General to provide a summary of her findings, and then the clerk will have an opportunity to respond, and then we can go into questions after. Madam Auditor General.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, we're proceeding according to the agenda, item 5, so we're starting with a special report.
Yes, correct.
And when we're going to move then immediately to if we have time, I suppose, to the annual report?
Well, what we intend to do today is not a detailed discussion of the annual report, but to identify the areas from the annual report that we intend to probe further. Okay. So we don't intend to have a detailed discussion. So for example, members could indicate, for example, a particular ministry or agency or department that you believe requires probing, and then we would invite them to the next sitting of the PAC.
Okay, I just wanted
sure.
Administratively to get that.
Yeah. Madam Auditor General.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The special audit of the Houses of Parliament was undertaken in response to matters brought to my attention by a whistleblower regarding the administration and management of certain operational activities. In accordance with our standard operation procedures, a preliminary review of the reported allegations was undertaken. This review determined that sufficient grounds existed to commission a special audit, of which the primary objective was to assess whether the procurement and contract management practices, government fleet vehicle management, and the use of an official credit card was conducted in keeping with applicable laws, regulations, and guidelines. The audit was designed to evaluate compliance and to identify any deviations from established standards in these areas. The report highlights breaches of established rules and controls, weaknesses in relation to procurement planning and execution, fleet management, and credit card administration. However, I wish to point out, Mr. Chairman, that one allegation regarding the use of the government-issued credit card for personal purpose was not established by us. We saw no evidence to support that allegation. At the same time, the report that you should have with you reflects management's responses and action taken by management before the completion of our report. Since then, I have received, in fact, yesterday, I received a response from the Houses of Parliament, which was sent Friday evening. The prompt, which I would have shared with the Secretary to the committee, is presented in a different format because the prompt covers the executive summary, the key findings only. The response provided by the clerk is more detailed and went through the full report. I have not had an opportunity to validate anything contained in this prompt that is in addition to the information that was already supplied. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, just so I can bring everybody up to speed, once a ministry, agency, or department is subject to an audit, we provide that entity with generally 4 weeks to formally respond to the audit findings. This is in addition to the opportunity that they would have during the course of the audit to provide information to the Auditor General. But once it is tabled and it's final, the entity has 4 weeks to respond, which is why if you look at the status report, you will see the status of other entities that have been subject to audits and the time frame given to them to respond. Once that report comes in, the Auditor General generally does a validation of those responses. Given the late time frame between the submission of the report, what the Auditor General has indicated is that she didn't have the time to validate the response. So I just want to be clear. Member Seawright, I see your mic. I don't know if you have it on deliberately or not. Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, I'll invite you to provide your response to the findings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I appear before the committee in my capacity as accounting officer for the House.
I think you have to speak a little closer. Pull the mic a little closer to you.
Are you hearing me better?
Yes, that's
Thank
better.
you. So, sorry. All right, let me, okay, I think it's easier for me to just hold. So, good morning again, everyone. Today I appear before the committee in my capacity as the accounting officer for the Houses of Parliament, and I wish to affirm my respect for the committee's oversight role and my commitment to accountability and the proper stewardship of public resources. The matters before the committee today arose from a special audit conducted by the Auditor General. My office has reviewed the findings, accepted those that are founded, and have implemented corrective measures where weaknesses were identified. I wish to state clearly at the outset that based on the findings, there was no actual financial loss to the government arising from the deficiencies identified, noting that certain matters remain under statutory review in accordance with the Financial Administration and Audit Act. The auditors did not find any private or personal use of the government-funded credit card, and all funds identified were fully accounted for. In relation to fleet vehicle management, I did not authorize any personal use of government vehicles, nor did I authorize or condone the falsification of entries into logbooks. Where control weaknesses came to light, those arrangements were stopped immediately and stronger oversight mechanisms were put in place. As part of strengthening governance and ensuring compliance with the FAA Act, the Houses of Parliament approached the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and formally requested the implementation of an internal audit committee. This represents the first time such a committee was being established in the history of the Parliament and is a significant step in institutionalizing oversight and accountability. Several of the issues raised in the report reflected historical control gaps and periods of administrative transition. Once these matters were brought to my attention, directives were issued, controls strengthened, and governance arrangements formalized to prevent recurrence. I'm here today to assist the committee fully to clarify the factual and governance context and to answer questions on the systems that are now in place to protect the public interest and the integrity of the Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll start off by looking at key finding number 1. And for members, I'm reading from the prompt, but you can ask questions either from the prompt or from the full report. The issue of the unauthorized use of the motor vehicle. On the 3rd page, and I just bring your attention to a bullet point. HOP's response dated September 2025 cited August 15, 2025 memo claiming Clark's permission, even though no evidence not provided. Can you elaborate on that? Because the Auditor General is saying there was a response from, so I'm just for everybody so you can follow. I'm reading from this prompt and I'm on, this would be I'm on this page. It's not numbered, but I think it's page 3. Key finding number 2, bullet point number 3. And I just want to ensure just clarity on, you have this? Oh, you don't have this? Could we provide a copy to the clerk? And this is in relation to overnight retention and permission for the use of the vehicle. So the bullet point number 3 states the response dated September 2025, cited August 15, memo claiming Clark's permission, although evidence not provided. I'm just seeking clarity on that.
Regarding the overnight retention, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so by way of...
Just, again, put the mic a little closer to you.
Okay, so by way of background information, just to state that the officer in question was completing part-time studies at the University of the West Indies. And he, based on his time schedule at the time, he would often return to the Parliament to complete his duties and responsibilities. And this officer was also the victim of crime, having left work late one evening. He was deprived of his personal effects in the downtown area. And it was known to us that he would often stay here until late in the night. And therefore permission was granted to him that he could have access to the vehicle to ensure his safety in those extenuating circumstances. But certainly no permission was ever granted for there to be any unauthorized usage of the vehicle for personal purposes, nor for incorrect entries to be entered in the logbooks.
Okay, so you would have, my understanding is he was held up and robbed, and as a result, permission would have been granted for him to, is it to keep the vehicle overnight?
In cases where he was working beyond sociable hours.
Okay, and in terms of the, I note, was there a disaggregation? It said, show the facilities and office manager use the vehicle 173 of 183 days, often parked off-site overnight. So how far would the permission have gone in terms of granting him to keep the vehicle?
For the nights when he was here until very late, he would have permission to drive the vehicle home in those circumstances for purposes of safety, but certainly not to use the vehicle for any personal or private use. And I should also state that during the days, he would have also used the vehicle for official government purposes, because sometimes we only have 2 drivers employed to the Parliament. Currently, we have 1. So on occasions, he would also assist us in carrying out their activities.
Madam Auditor General, just seeking your guidance here. In a scenario where there are extenuating circumstances and permission was granted by the clerk for overnight use of the vehicle, what would satisfy the Auditor General? Because it was raised as a key finding and a breach. Was it the absence of written instructions, or what would satisfy you that permission was granted in a scenario like this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as the clerk shared her position, I was actually consulting with the AP for that area, because...
What does AP mean?
I'm sorry, the audit principal,
okay.
With responsibility for the audit, because what she shared just now, that she granted permission for the vehicle to be used in some circumstances, that's actually new to me. So it is not something that I would have given contemplation to. My understanding up to this point is that there was no evidence that permission was granted for the use of the vehicle. I am now consulting with my AP on that. In any event, I believe the circular does say that permission has to be granted by the head of entity. This matter is here as an issue because there was no such evidence that any permission was granted, and my understanding is that the clerk had also denied giving any such permission. I'm hearing something else now, Mr. Chairman, that I really do not want to provide any opinion on that until I have better particulars of really what existed.
Okay, so am I
Yes,
allowed
yes,
to respond?
Madam Clerk, yes.
The facilities and office manager would have made this disclosure to the auditors regarding the fact that he was held up and that permission was granted. And I also do believe that I would, in the exit interviews with the auditors, this would have been stated. What is clear is that there was no written permission, and what is also clear is that no permission was ever granted for there to be any breach of the FAA Act or for any incorrect entries to be made in the logbooks.
So just so I'm clear, so there would have been, after the incident, verbal permission would have been granted given the incident, but nothing was put in writing. So when the Auditor General would have done her audit, she would not have seen evidence of permission in writing.
There is no permission in writing, that is correct, but disclosures would have been made to the auditors by the facilities manager of what transpired when he was held up after leaving work very late one night.
All right, I say Member Bunting and Member Seabright. Member Bunting first.
I'm just trying to get some clarification. On that third bullet point, House of Parliament's response dated September 2025 cited an August 15, 2025 memo claiming clerk's permission. Evidence not provided. Is that memo in the package? I must say, if you could point me to it.
If you look at HOP 5, I'm sorry, in the exhibits
What
that we would have sent.
Oh, this is in your response that just came
Would it be
No,
in this, in your
in our
management response?
response that would have been shared via email.
Or is the appendix? Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
So in,
Members,
in
I
this-
think this is the appendix that you can point us to
yeah.
that
It
particular.
wouldn't be a page, exhibits, yeah.
Exhibit what?
HOP 5,
HOP 5?
yeah.
Okay. So this is the one dated or stamped August 15th, 2025?
It's stamped August 18th,
Oh,
but
18th,
it is
sorry,
dated
August 15th.
Correct.
So of the 173
Member,
occasions,
just pull the mic closer so we can hear you.
of the 173 occasions that the employee took home the vehicle, how many of those occasions would have fit the approval that you gave?
I would not be in a position to give specific numbers, but that information could be provided in writing.
But qualitatively, would it have been the vast majority? Would it have been half? Would it have been a minority? I just want to get a sense. In other words, was your approval abused, or was it generally in line with what you had approved?
From my own observations, I would state that it appeared that there was no abuse of the permission
There was no abuse, you said?
based on my observation at the time, because additional information came to light at a later time, and that is when I would have provided instructions to the legal department. This was in June of last year, for them to also do a review based on information that was coming to my office about the manner in which the vehicle was being used, to determine if there was any abuse or non-compliance with the FAA Act. And upon receiving that legal opinion from our internal legal branch, the facilities and office manager was instructed that he should cease driving the motor vehicle, because in addition to instances where it was found that it was being used for personal reasons, it was also discovered that he was not ITA certified at the time. He did not have the proper certification that would have allowed him to be driving the government-owned vehicle.
Was he aware that he needed that before the ITA certification? Was he aware of that?
Certainly, because based on his job description, he had responsibility for fleet vehicle management. And one would want to imagine that any officer using due diligence would certainly be aware as to what is required of them. And there is, I saw something in one of the exhibits where it also indicated that the certification was granted at some particular moment in time. So if it is that it existed and it expired, certainly the officer would have an obligation to
Oh, so he
ensure
had it, it
compliance.
expired, and then
Yeah.
he renewed it, but there was
It
a
was
gap.
never, I'm
There was a
not seeing
gap.
evidence of renewal.
It was not renewed? No?
I don't have that
Okay.
evidence to
And
provide.
that certification lasts for how long? I know a driver's
2
license lasts for a
years,
particular
2
period.
years.
It's 2 years. So every 2 years, the officer would need to renew. So during this period, how long would he have been driving the vehicle without the certification? For approximately how long?
It
Roughly.
expired, I think it expired July 2024. And he continued to have access, or July 2023.
But what I would ask, Clark, just in terms of checks and balances, the onus shouldn't be solely on the individual. There should be a process where someone else would need to verify that he, in fact, has the certification. It shouldn't be, just from a process management perspective, it shouldn't be left to him alone and that goes for any individual. Someone should, I mean, I can say as parliamentarians, we have to provide our updated documents on a periodic basis to show that we still have our driver's license, etc. So whether it is HR or another function, someone should be checking to ensure that all officers who, whether they're granted government vehicles to drive, that they have the appropriate certification. You want to say something, Madam Auditor General? Member Seawright, I'll come back to you, but just release your mic so I can give the auditor. Go ahead, Madam Auditor General.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to emphasize that the clerk has introduced a new dimension. At page 18 of the report, paragraph 2.8.
Sorry, this is your...
Yes, the annual, the
this
special
one,
audit
this report,
correct.
page 18. One
Yes.
second. Let's just get to it.
Section, the revised comprehensive motor vehicle policy is referred to.
You're on what, 2.7?
2.8.
2.8?
Section 5.4.
Right,
Point 4. So it stipulates that the government vehicle should not be retained overnight or beyond the period of specific assignment in special circumstances, such as where a vehicle is used to transport members of staff. And that is where it indicates that the accounting officer, head of entity, can grant special permission. But I want to emphasize that it says beyond the period of specific assignment. The representative from the Ministry of Finance is here, and I believe it would be useful to hear the Ministry of Finance's position on that, because what I am understanding here is that the clerk is saying that she did in fact give the FOM permission to utilize it for personal reasons. I don't know that a head of entity or an accounting officer can grant permission for a fleet vehicle to be used for personal reasons, but you can grant permission for the vehicle to be retained at the end of a special assignment. So if he's transporting members late in night, or he's asked to do an assignment which takes him beyond working hours, then I do believe that permission can be granted to retain that vehicle overnight. So I really want clarification if that's what the clerk said. And as I said, that this is really being introduced to me at this point.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so Madam Auditor General, just to repeat what I stated earlier, that no permission was granted for private use. I would have given some background information as to why the officer was allowed to use the vehicle based on extenuating circumstances. He would be at work beyond 9 p.m. and this can be validated. And in light of the fact, and there was a particular time as well, we are existing in a very antiquated building and we were having a lot of challenges. And therefore, at a particular time, he was here up until perhaps 10, 11, very late in the night. And in those circumstances, permission was granted. And this information is not new. It was clearly outlined to the auditors when they were conducting their research here. So it is not new information, and the facilities manager, I know, has stated this.
All right, Member Clark, well, Seawright was first, then Member Clark. How about the Member Seawright?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Auditor General, the management response it indicated that once the deficiencies in the fleet logbooks and supervision were identified, the Houses of Parliament instituted, I believe, weekly supervisory spot checks, and they strengthened the approval processes and introduced a rule that no fuel or maintenance is authorized without a clearly defined and pre-approved purpose of travel. So from your professional perspective, would you agree that if this is consistently applied, that these measures would directly address the control weaknesses that have been identified in the audit? Now, beyond that, question two, really now, when I went through the reports, the response outlines that the clerk issued multiple written directives, December 12, 2025, January 14, 2026, January 17, 2026, January 19, 2026, requesting explanations and documentation from the facilities and operations manager. Yet these were, repeated refusals to respond. So how does a committee then, how do we distinguish between what could be some institutional control weaknesses, but really individual non-cooperation? And how does an accounting officer handle a situation like that where somebody is blatantly not following internal accountability processes and the audit itself?
Thanks, Member. My quick response to question number two, I think that that question is best suited for the clerk. I guess she ought to explain to the committee how she will handle this matter. In relation to the logbooks, I believe that if there is consistent and faithful maintenance of the logbook alongside addressing the deficiencies identified, well, certainly it is hoped that there would be improvement in that area in the future. And regular supervision as well. Thanks for that.
Madam Clerk? Well,
So just to state, Mr. Chair, that our response to the Auditor General's finding has been twofold, where firstly, there was immediate termination of the unauthorized access to prevent any further personal use of the government-owned fleet vehicle. And secondly, we have now institutionalized a new structure where we have a new transport manager in place. We have moved from a person-dependent system to a procedure-driven framework. In fact, we are now at the stage, it was raised in the audit report about the non-operational vehicles that are here, and we are almost at the end of the procurement process in getting a haulage contractor to come and remove those vehicles for boarding. And we have a strict zero tolerance policy on uncertified driving. Currently, I can confirm to the committee that we have no officer here at the Houses of Parliament who is operating any fleet vehicle without valid certification. The new transport manager has also implemented and has been maintaining a mandatory register of ITA certifications, and this also extends itself to the office of to the opposition leader's office as well. And the new transport manager has been conducting weekly spot checks and monitoring the logbooks. So no resources are being released unless trips are pre-approved as official business with a clearly defined purpose.
all right, members, Clark, then Cousins. Press your thing now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, all. Earlier, the Auditor General would have asked for the permission to be granted for the person from the Finance
Ministry of Finance, Ms. Blake.
To answer a question. But before she does, Mr. Chairman, the same section, page 18, 2.8, I think the answer lies right there. It's section 5.4.4 of the RCMVP stipulates that government vehicles should not be retained overnight, fine, or be on a period of specific assignment, correct, except in special circumstances, such as where a vehicle is used to transport members of staff to and from work or for any other justified extenuating circumstances. The policy authorizes the accounting officer to grant permission for the extenuating circumstances. However, she must satisfy himself of the continued safe custody of the vehicle during these specific assignments. I think the answer lies right there. It is.
I think the issue, if you read the next sentence, is that there was no evidence. So I think that's the issue.
The Auditor General is saying that when she was doing the audit,
She didn't see any
nothing
evidence.
was provided. But the answer earlier from Madam Clark, and she would have explained the situation point by point.
No.
So at this point, I still don't see the need to ask for, and yes, we still can get the clarity from Finance Ministry. But the answer sits right there. It rests with the authorized person to satisfy themselves that this is a special occasion, which we would have heard that the person in question, the officer in question, works beyond sociable time, which I believe is anywhere beyond 9 o'clock going up, considering the situation that was presented to us that prior to that, his life was in question as it relates to a robbery taking place.
Okay. Member Cousins?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, my question and my point is somewhat piggybacks on the point made by Member Clark, in the sense that we are here, Chairman, to get some clarity on what is acceptable and what is unacceptable as far as the government guidelines are concerned. The clerk could have indicated earlier, one, that she allowed access for the unauthorized, for the youth to go to university and come back, and also to keep overnight. 2 admissions were made earlier. The Ministry of Finance is here, and so we need some clarity, because this doesn't only affect the House of Parliament. It affects other agencies of government in terms of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. We have a scenario before us, whether or not that is acceptable in terms of the extenuating circumstances. I have not heard of any evidence from the officer who says that he was robbed, that he made a police report, and that report is somewhere attached to something given to the Auditor General to verify the extenuating circumstances. So,
Hold on, he did. Did he?
Yes, and that can be provided at a later date.
It's not provided in
No,
this
it's not
response.
provided in the exhibits here, but it can be provided.
No, but you see, the point is that if you have it, provide it so that you can verify what you're saying is true. And that would not have allowed me now to ask the question, because I perused the documents, I did not see it. And to an untrained eye, you will miss it. But to a trained eye, we don't miss things like that. So, thank you for that clarification. No, she says that she will provide it. But, Chairman, I believe the Ministry of Finance
Okay, I'll ask Mrs. Hope
provide
Blake.
some clarity based on the circumstances.
Hold on, we have a whole heap of mics on.
Before the ministry responds, because I too just want to add something to that. The memorandum of August 15th from the Facilities and Office Manager,
Members, please. Member Cousins, please.
speaks to the whole issue of driver certification. And I just want to understand why, the Island Traffic Authority, aren't they the body that issues driver's license generally, why do they not accept their own driver's license certification? Why is there a special certification needed to drive a government vehicle when you already have a driver's license?
I don't know who here could answer that question.
No, but it just seems like unnecessary bureaucracy to me. Why would you need? It's the same Island Traffic Authority that would have issued every driver's license, whether private, commercial, general, whatever the categories are. So why would you need a special certification from the same authority that issued the first one? Is it they don't trust their own certification? Because this is not a specialized vehicle. We're not talking some heavy articulated tractor head or something like that. We're just talking a regular, Prado. So that's one. And then there's this issue about the distinction between the yellow-plated vehicles, and I'm reading from this memo, and the privately insured. So I'm going to assume that the yellow-plated vehicles are uninsured or self-insured by the government, and that the privately insured vehicles are the ones with the regular white plates. And again, I just want to understand if there is some distinction between those who are certified to drive the same vehicle, for example, a Prado that might have yellow plate in one instance, but white plate in another instance, but is the identical vehicle.
All right, I don't know who can answer those questions, but I want to invite Mrs. Blake from the Ministry of Finance. Member Gordon, just release your mic and then turn it back on after. No, he was after him. I'll come to you. I'll come to you after, Member Cuthbert.
All right. Member Clark read from the policy, but I'll just read another section that talks about the unproductive use of fleet vehicles. Section 5.4.2 of the Comprehensive Government Motor Vehicle Policy says, drivers and other authorized employees who operate fleet vehicles must note that the government motor vehicles should only be used for official duties. Therefore, on no occasion should these vehicles be used privately. So that generally governs the use of fleet vehicles. He read further down by 5.4.4, which talks about the extenuating circumstances that gives the accounting officer the right to give permission to an officer to use the vehicles. But of course, you would have seen up here that it spoke about not using it for private use. And the example given here is if persons work late and you have the driver, then you wouldn't require the driver to carry back the vehicle to the premises of the entity, right? So the driver would be allowed permission to take home that vehicle once the accounting officer satisfies him or herself that the vehicle will be safe. So that's generally it. So there is the possibility that the accounting officer can give permission. In this case, he said he was robbed, etc. But of course, there needs to be evidence of that. And therefore, it would need to be in writing, because you would also need to know how long is this permission being granted. So those are the considerations. In terms of Mr. Member Bunting's question about the yellow plate and the white plate, assigned vehicles. So if most of the assigned vehicles are privately insured, are insured, not self-insured. Fleet vehicles generally are self-insured by the government.
And those are yellow plates?
Yellow plates.
Okay. All right, Member Gordon, then Member Cuthbert. Oh, she answered it? Okay, Member Gordon.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm grappling with the fine line of demarcation between what is approved by the accounting officer and the policy as it relates to who can drive a government vehicle. It would also seems to me that there's a void where there's one driver short at the Parliament. So over time, that driver was asked to carry out those functions. Would the Auditor General tell me whether or not that constitutes a breach, or is it that the clerk failed to have adequate staff on board so as to avoid the approval of the use of that vehicle?
Thanks for that question. Mr. Chairman, if you'd allow me the privilege of deferring to the representative from the Ministry of Finance who developed the policy, and I think is in a best position to indicate the intent of the policy.
Okay. Mrs. Blake?
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, section 5.4 again. Earlier, it talks about the transport manager will be the officer authorized by the accounting officer to assign and manage the motor vehicles. The intention is that government vehicles, government-owned vehicles, are driven by, we call designated drivers, government drivers. So that's the general rule, right? If you have a government-owned vehicle, not the assigned vehicles now, but once you have a fleet vehicle, there is a driver and there is a post, there are posts designated for drivers to operate those fleet vehicles. So generally,
Hold on, something wrong with the mic there. You want to turn off that one and use the other one? Turn it on off, use the other one.
all right, sir. Right, in addition, the policy says the transport manager has that only authorized personnel are allowed the use of a fleet vehicle. All right, so there might be instances where there is given permission for another officer to drive the fleet vehicle. However, that person has to be certified, etc., to drive the vehicle. And we do not expect that that would be on a protracted period of time either, because you have positions that were created for drivers, and it is expected that they operate the vehicles.
All right, Mrs. Blake, I want to come back to one. Oh, you want to ask your question now? Okay, you had asked to do.
Ask another question, if I'm
Okay,
allowed.
all right. Before you do, just following up on what Member Bunting had asked about the difference between the ITA certification versus the driver's license. Is that a requirement developed by the Ministry of Finance for certain vehicles that the person must be ITA in addition to having their driver's license?
The motor vehicle policy does indicate that the driver has to be certified. However, this is in keeping with the ITA, the act that they use. So it's just a reflection of what the ITA requires, that the drivers are certified. I think this came out of a concern that there were multiple accidents, and the ITA had, at the time, felt that part of the issue was that the drivers needed to be recertified.
And this goes across the board for all government vehicles?
Across the board.
Okay. All right, Member Corporation.
I hope we can wrap this part up soon, but you know, from what the member just stated, I think it's a non-issue what was mentioned if the clerk failed or not to employ someone to transport persons around. Ms. Hope Blake just mentioned that the FAA Act, according to the FAA Act, once authorization is granted for the vehicle to be, for someone to keep it overnight in extenuating circumstances, that I'm hearing that it's okay once it's written, correct? So I don't think, I think it's a non-issue for you to mention if the clerk failed or not. I just wanted to point that out.
Let me just say before I remember, God, the only reason this was flagged as an issue, at the time of the audit, the Auditor General didn't see written permission, which is why she raised this as an issue. The clerk has said that she provided it to the auditors in the interviews, but at the time she didn't see it. All right. Member Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my question was misinterpreted by a member from West Rural St. Andrew. At no stage did I refer to the clerk as being derelict in her duty. I asked the question whether or not the shortage of a driver would place that person who was authorized to use the vehicle in a precarious position because he was acting in a capacity not available to the Parliament at that time. And hence I am asking the question whether or not it would satisfy the Auditor General that the accountable officer made that authorization.
You want to answer? All right. I'm going to move to the issue of the government-funded credit card. And the issue that was flagged here is that there was an error in terms of the transfer of funds, and it was undetected for 4 months. I've noted your response since and the issue of a new principal financial officer. But prior to that, could you indicate how regularly were the accounts being reconciled and whether the individual before was doing that on a consistent basis? It appears not, but I just wanted to find out from you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on instructions received, it is our understanding that the reports were not being maintained in a consistent manner, and proper oversight perhaps was not adopted in the circumstances, which would have led to this processing error from the bank.
And let me just ask, I note you have said since the new PFO has come in, does the principal financial officer report directly to you, and does he give you a status report with a monthly or so to say all the accounts have been reconciled and provide the evidence, give you evidence that statutory deductions are paid, etc.? Is that provided now?
That is correct. He does provide a monthly report, and I can tell you that prior to even my tenure here at the Houses of Parliament, we had an issue where a lot of staff were being either overpaid or underpaid, and since the new PFO has joined the institution, we have seen several changes, and certainly reporting mechanisms are strong, and we do not have any outstanding quarterly credit card reports at the moment, and this can be attributed to the oversight that is being provided by the PFO.
Member Bunton?
On this issue, I mean, $29 million is not a little bit. Is it that the Parliament is so flush with money that they don't catch a $29 million error in transferring? There must have been, was there not a shortage somewhere else that would have indicated that this substantial sum is missing from where it should have been? I mean, and then for it to go undetected for 4 months, I mean, to say indicates weak reconciliations, that must indicate no reconciliation was taking place. How would a $29 million transfer error to a card account not be detected in the normal, I would imagine, at least monthly bank reconciliations that should take place?
Thank you, Member Bunting. So just to state for the record that the erroneous transaction occurred on January 31, 2025 during the tenure of a former PFO who was on secondment to the Houses of Parliament and had the functional responsibility for oversight of the recurrent account. Now, also to state for the record, the credit card in question, it has a limit of 5,000 US dollars only. So the error would have occurred between the financial institution, because if we only have a limit of 5,000 US dollars, on what basis would you seek to withdraw or to make a claim for $28.96 million?
But I'd go further. On what basis would any officer of the parliament do that transfer?
It was not transferred. The transfer was done based on my understanding from the Accountant General's Department. So it's not like the PFO. It is not my understanding that.
Oh, so it was
PFO
not initiated by someone at the parliament?
That's not my. One second. Okay, thank you. So I've just been properly advised by the PFO that we had submitted a letter to the bank for payment on the credit card, and then the bank actually made that processing error in withdrawing more than what was stated in the cover letter to them. And we...
So you sent to the bank the amount that you felt should have been withdrawn, and the bank withdrew significantly more?
That is correct. We're just trying to find that. Okay,
Yeah, if you
so
could
it's at
direct us to that memo, please.
So it's at exhibit HOP 9.
HOP 9. Hold on. This is the January 28, 2025 letter to the manager of Scotiabank?
Yes, that's correct.
So your instructions were for the Jamaican equivalent of 181,000 Jamaican dollars. Hold on, let me just make sure I'm reading this right. With the Jamaican equivalent of, be credited to the US account. And they took out, so instead of 181,000 Jamaican, 28, sorry, I'm just trying to understand, I'm a little confused here. Okay, you are saying 181,000 Jamaican, but what was done was 29 million?
They converted it to US dollars, it appears.
So they
Jamaican.
took the Jamaican equivalent, assumed it was US.
It appears to be, that is what transpired.
Hold on. Let me read this. The Houses of Parliament is hereby requesting that the recurrent expenditure account be debited with the Jamaican equivalent. All right. Well, I see why they're confused. Because you said with the Jamaican equivalent, so they would assume the 181 is US. I think this should have been written with more clear. It should have been clearer. And okay, I understand why the error was made. But it still don't explain why it takes so long to pick up the error, because that's a lot of money that you would have missed, that would have been taken out of your account. And but you are saying the Accountant General did that transaction?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I stand corrected.
Hold on, Member Brown has been holding. Go ahead, Member Brown.
Thank you, Chairman.
Pull the mic a little closer to you. So.
Thank you. I wanted to piggyback on your earlier comment, and also I think Member Bunting, in terms of the undetection of this for 4 months. Specifically, I want to find out what is the management framework that you have in place, Clerk, to receive, and I see that seeping in through quite a few of the different findings of the Auditor General in terms of her report. What is the management mechanism you have? Because I see where after the issues have been highlighted, yes, the corrective actions have been instituted, but consistent throughout many of the findings is some indication that there is a gap in terms of management mechanisms, oversight. So I want to understand the structure of the Parliament in terms of, is there a monthly management meeting where all the functions are brought together to report into you so that these things are not undetected? And as I said, it is right across the board. The appropriations account, the breaches under the fleet management, those are being detected by the auditor. But what is the mechanism that you have in place at the Parliament to ensure that, well, walk me through that, because I'm pretty concerned about that, because there seems to be that gap in terms of a monthly review, feeding in from the different functions, fleet, finance, whatever the function, so that those issues are detected early and continuously. So could you guide me and walk us through those?
Okay, thank you, Member. So just to reiterate, all persons who report directly to my office must submit their monthly reports. But one can also appreciate that where an individual fails to incorporate certain information in their report, it would be somewhat difficult for where I sit to note that there has been a gap. We had a PFO at the time. Part of her responsibility was to ensure that the accounts were being reconciled, and clearly there was a failure. However, during transition, we got a new PFO who started the 1st of April, and by the 5th or 6th of May thereabout, he detected this error. So it is clear that it's not a case where systems are not in place, but also a case where persons may not be applying themselves to the systems that exist.
Thank you for that response, Madam Clerk. So you get the report, all functions submit the report to you, but there's no active monthly meeting of the management and the leadership core of the Parliament where there's a discussion of these reports, so that if, for example, because you may be bombarded with 5, 6 different functional reports per month, because the fact is they are going undetected. The issues are going undetected, whether it be previous PFO or it being detected by the new PFO. It went 4 months undetected, and you would have received the 4 months of report from the, as you have outlined, from the outgoing PFO. So is there, and it's just trying to understand what is the management oversight that happens so that, and perhaps implementing such a structure where, apart from getting the reports and you being encumbered with going through that, there is a monthly leadership meeting of the Parliament where those reports are discussed so that the gaps and the undetection do not occur.
Okay, so we currently do not have any set monthly meetings for management, but as I have said before, even with the written report, there's an obligation for persons to pay due diligence and to give an accurate reflection of what transpired. I usually go over. Sometimes it's not possible to have these regular meetings because we have sittings twice per week in most instances, and there are other administrative and competing issues at hand. So it's somewhat difficult to have a prescribed monthly meeting, but there is a monthly reporting structure, And I do take the time out to review those monthly reports. And if there are questions or red flags, I will reach out to that officer to request further clarification.
Just in future, you have to keep on your mic because it goes in the order. So I'll ask Member Bunting and Member Currencia if you could release yours, and then after Member Brown, you'll come back on.
Thank you. And I appreciate the explanation. I'll just finally say that you are going to be in the hotspot always. So therefore, you indicate that the obligation is on the functional head, be it accounts, be it fleet, be it whatever department. I would suggest that because you are in the hotspot, that you could look at reviewing the management structure and how you undertake the oversight so that we don't have these things and that you are not brought to bear to explain inefficiencies and errors from your management team. Just a proposal. Yes.
All right, Member Bunting, then Member Currencia.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, looking at this letter, the bank made no error. The error was made in how the instruction was written. Because having spent many years working in a bank, this is clear. Requesting the recurrent expenditure account be debited with the Jamaican equivalent of $181,026.73 and credited to the US dollar account.
Yeah.
So clearly, if it's a Jamaican equivalent to credit and of an amount to be credited to a US account, it is perfectly acceptable that the bank would have interpreted it that way. So the error was in the instruction, and the instruction was signed by Colleen Lowe, clerk to the houses. So maybe a mistake was also made in the wording by the principal finance officer, but we must take responsibility for our own errors. And clearly you were the co-signer on this instruction, Ms. Lowe. I really don't think it's fair to the bank to be trying to say the bank made an error. An error was made in the instruction that was given to the bank, and then this was further compounded by reconciliations not being done on a regular basis. It really shouldn't go more than a month, but it should perhaps be even more frequent given the size sums that are being transferred. So, please, let's just, anybody can make a mistake, but let's take responsibility for our mistakes and then put measures in place so that they don't recur.
In response to that, Member Bunting, let me also state that notwithstanding the specific reimbursement amount that is in the cover letter, the bank also failed to make contact with a representative from the Houses of Parliament to confirm the sum that was to be credited. And this is a standard practice from the bank. And there are emails we're trying to find where the bank would have stated that they did try to reach out to the then PFO to confirm the amount that should have been transferred, but they were unable to make contact with her.
So in every, let me just, I know what happens at a personal level. If you request a transfer, the bank has to call you to verify. So you're saying is it every transaction or above particular limits that the PFO...
Every transaction, even if we are requesting per diem from the bank, they usually call and confirm the amount and who is to collect it. Okay. Every transaction.
Every transaction?
Every transaction.
Okay. Okay. Is that, I must ask though, is that efficient for every transaction, or you don't set limits over a particular amount? I mean, an account in the PFO may be able to approve X, but certainly over an amount it might be the clerk who has to be, but you're saying every single, if it's 10 Jamaican dollars, they have to call to confirm?
That is correct.
Okay.
Every transaction, I usually receive a phone call or the PFO to confirm the amount.
Okay, all right, yes, member. Mayor.
Point that is being made, sir, is that this was an unusual transaction because, as I understand it, the limit on the credit card is $5,000. And in circumstances where the letter as written is ambiguous, it's really a function of interpretation, albeit the bank, it's really a function of interpretation because the writer intended one thing, the receiver interpreted one thing and followed with a series of actions thereafter. The fact of the matter, and in support of what the clerk is indicating, this was an unusual transaction. So it would not be far-fetched for the bank to make contact in circumstances where you're moving in excess of 100,000 United States dollars to a credit card that has a limit of $5,000.
35 times.
All right. I want to move to the procurement of the services for the renovation of the members' lounge. No, I think we all are happy as members of that the lounge is much better. It's just ensuring that the procedures were followed. I know there were issues related to the air conditioning unit and the procurement and the lack of formality, no formal contract, purchase order, etc. Could you explain that? I know you were indicated you were trying to move quickly in terms of getting the units in, Madam Clerk. Well, could you explain that?
Sorry, so the question is in relation to the procurement of the AC unit?
Yes, and it says here, no formal contract, purchase order, warranty, no commitment control, officer attestation, no inventory records, supplier document lacks serial numbers, no physical verification.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, we accept the findings from the Auditor General regarding the fact that the AC units were not supported through the proper procurement process, and that we have implemented new measures to ensure that in the future we do not have a recurrence where any officer from the Houses of Parliament can walk into an entity and request to purchase units without proper procurement processes. And I must also state that, for the record, what I do know is that some of these purchases were made when I was away on official business, and we also have justifications from the facilities and office manager who would have gone to ATL to procure these AC units without following proper procedure. And I'm just trying to locate where in the exhibit you can find his justification, where he stated that at the time of acquisition, it's by way of a memo dated July 30, 2025. We're just trying to find it in the exhibit. He stated that at the time of acquisition, the applicable single source procurement threshold, HOP 19, in your appendix. 19, 19 at the back.
While I look for that, you mentioned that it some of this took place while you were on official duty. Again, the question I would ask, which Member Brown raised, is a process question. What is the process, whether you are physically here or not, if someone is going through the procurement process for this? Is there a threshold, for example, that you must approve as the accounting officer, or is there a lower threshold that the procurement officer on his or her own can go ahead and approve? What is the process?
The process is that all expenditure must be approved by my office. And what would have transpired in this particular case is that the facilities manager would have gone to ATL and he would have solicited to acquire these units because he would be known to the persons and therefore they would, because we have a relationship with them, and on that basis I presume that
but he
the
would have been
units-
acting based on some discussion that, listen, we need to get these AC units because...
Some, because admittedly, my AC was down, the deputy clerk's AC went down, and also my executive secretary. So there were cases that were known that he would have received approval for those, but he would have stated that. So he gave two reasons. One is that at the time of acquisition, the applicable single source procurement threshold for goods was 1.5 million Jamaican dollars, and all 5 transactions fell below this threshold and were therefore legally compliant. There's also another memo, which I'm speaking from memory, where he would have also stated that it was approaching the end of the financial year, and to avoid monies being returned to the Ministry of Finance, then this would have also, it's in the same memo, sorry, on page 3, that money would have been unspent. So in an effort,
So he was trying to spend the money so that you wouldn't have to return it, and there was a clear need for the AC units, and it was below the threshold.
Correct.
Okay. Members, are there any questions on this, or?
Just
Hold on. No, we're talking about the specific, the procurement of the ACs. But Member Miller, you want to go ahead?
Just a general question. Is there like a procurement committee in place for the Parliament?
There is. And there's an expectation for there to be full compliance. We have the Director of Procurement who is sitting to my left, and we also have the Senior Procurement Officer sitting directly behind her. So we do have processes in place, and we also have committees in place, and usually when matters go to that department, an evaluation is conducted, and the full cycle in the procurement process is generally observed.
So in this particular instance, did this purchase go through the procurement committee?
No.
So for clarity, only items above the threshold goes to the procurement committee?
No, the internal procedure was not complied with in the circumstances, and as part of the corrective measures, based on the job description of the facilities manager, he would normally report to the Director of Corporate Services, but that position is currently vacant. So he is currently reporting to the office of the Marshal, which therefore means that there can be no recurrence of what would have transpired in acquiring the AC units, because permission or approval must be granted by the immediate supervisor, who is the Marshal to the houses, and then it also comes to my desk for final approval. So on the requisition forms, 3 signatures are required.
That's a corrective measure.
Well, that has always been in place. However, it was not followed by the individual in this circumstance.
Just to clear my mind, one of those signatures would have been the clerk's signature, the final, which means it meant that they would have circumvented quite a few steps. As a person who the box stops with, you would have ignored those steps as well, correct?
As I indicated earlier, that whilst I had knowledge for the purchase of, I think, 3 units, because in 3 consecutive days, units went down, including my own office. And I'm aware of that. As to the other purchases, they were made, some of them, while I was on official business. I was not physically here in the jurisdiction, and therefore did not grant any approval, and neither did I see any evidence that the deputy clerk, who would have supervisor functions in my absence, made such approval either. It does not exist, and it was never brought to my attention.
The danger here, Madam Clerk, I believe this person would have been trying to solve a problem which existed and was moving quickly. But the absence of controls or adequate controls means that that person could abuse the system. That's the challenge, right? And so clearly he was buying ACs because ACs had broken down and there was a need. But when you raise the issue of your absence, it's a red flag for me, because your absence shouldn't be an issue, because somebody deputizes for you. There's a process that somebody should follow that should be signed off before somebody can commit funds on behalf of the Parliament. So the challenge is ensuring that the process is in place, that somebody doesn't go out on a frolic of his own. And I don't think he was here. He was trying to solve a problem.
But the processes are in place, Mr. Chairman.
But they weren't followed.
They weren't followed, but they are in place. And the Director of Procurement is here and can confirm same.
And these, you see, a lot of the breaches that are coming up, I think we're putting in, you're putting in place things to correct it. And I understand that, right? It's just in this case, you know, the person could have abused that privilege and done many other things with the resources available to him without the knowledge of the supervisors here. That's the concern. All right, I don't know the order. I'm going to press my thing. Is Member Bunting, then Gordon, then Cuthbert Flynn.
So, Chairman, I'm just trying to reconcile the memo of July 30th, 2025, HOP 19, and it's written by Mr. Watson, the Facilities and Office Manager. And in conclusion, he ends the procurement and installation of the 16 air conditioning units were in full compliance with the thresholds applicable at the time, consistent with the updated procurement policy effective March 27th, 2025, justified under Section 25 of the Public Procurement Act, carried out through 5 separate invoices, none exceeding the threshold, and this part I'm not 100% understanding, funded separately from the 30 million fixed asset allocations for financial year 2024-25. So I'm having, this person is still in a role? So they are of the view that they were fully compliant with the various procurement policies and regulations. The Auditor General, and seemingly confirmed by you, now say that there were multiple breaches. How do you reconcile this memo with the conclusion? I'm trying to understand. What of those 5 bullet points in its conclusion are incorrect.
Okay, so Member Bunting, if you should look at the same memo, on the transaction details, where the 5 invoices are listed, and if you look at the dates, so when you take all things into perspective, so for an example, invoice number 2 and invoice number 3 are both dated March 13, 2025. One number ends with 608, the other with 611. And if you also look at the sum, it's just below the $1 million threshold. And
so what you're saying is splintering the transaction.
It appears to be that based on the invoices that are stated
he's
here.
Splintering the transaction to get around the intent of the policy.
It appears to be so based on the evidence that is here.
But again, was he doing that because there was the urgency of trying to procure the things?
No, but I think it would be, Mr. Chairman, making a mockery of the policy if officers could just splinter purchases to get them below the thing. So
below the threshold.
You know, whatever may have seemed expedient, but I don't think that is. That certainly couldn't be acceptable, or it would open a gap that you could drive a horse and coaches through.
Correct.
It could be exploited, and there's some laws or regulations, for example, in poker, for example, where you talk about transactions below $1 million, it has anti-splintering provisions to avoid this very type of act. So I don't think, you know, especially now given that they're on the same day, it would be very hard to not conclude that this was contrived to breach the letter of the procurement policy, but it certainly breaches it in spirit.
Member Cofferton.
Oh, where was I? I got distracted. I think I'm looking at the Auditor General's report as to what was found. And I see what was found was procurement undertaken without budgetary allocation. Is that what happened? And also varying bid procedures and improper contract selection and award noted. So,
where are you reading
page
from?
Page 6. And this is
which document, just so that we're following?
This is in relations to the procurement breaches relation to the renovation of members' lounge and purchase of air conditioning equipment. So I'm not understanding, since I got, was listening from what you stated, was there a budgetary allocation this procurement undertook without the proper budgetary allocation?
So part of the purchase would have been as a result of an immediate need and considered to be emergency. And regarding the facilities manager's assertion about not returning allocation to the Ministry of Finance, it is unclear as to what would have caused him to take this particular position about monies being returned under the budget.
Sorry, Member Gordon was before you, then Member Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is troubling to me is the fact that the clerk is saying that the officer acted on his or her own without any formal approval. Now, when you look at justification from Section 2 to Section 4, it is clear that Member Bunting was onto something about splintering. He raised the issue that the threshold was raised to 30 million. And so in his or her mind, they were acting under the threshold. So the purchases is way under...
The threshold was raised to 3 million.
To 3 million.
3, not 30.
Right, 3 million.
3, yeah.
And so they're acting below the threshold. Now my question is, if the officer was on a frolic, who authorized or approved the payments? And what process was used to justify those payments since there's a glaring gap?
So approval for payments was post facto because the AC units were all delivered and most were installed at that time. And under law, if you have received the goods and they have been installed, you could find yourself being sued for specific performance. So there was an obligation for payment to be made in those circumstances.
So at what stage did you as the clerk intervene? Yes, there's an obligation to pay, but the breach or the gap was prior to that. And at what time did you intervene? At what stage did you approve payment, given the fact that you said you were on vacation or whatever special leave at the time? It was never brought to your attention. So who was the officer approving that? Are you then saying the procurement officer was acting on a frolic?
Sorry, it was not the procurement officer, it's the
Well,
facilities
whichever
and
officer.
office manager. And I will repeat that my involvement was limited to post-facto approval for payment based on the fact that the goods were already delivered and some already installed at the time.
So would you accept that there was a procedural breach? And at
We
what
accept the
stage did you
findings.
recognize that and move to fix it?
We accept the findings of the Auditor General and the corrective measures are now in place to ensure that going forward, no officer can act on their own volition to ensure that there is no recurrence of any breach under the FAA Act and relevant instructions and our circulars from the Ministry of Finance and Public Service.
Our members,
additionally, training has also been provided to staff, in particular for procurement as well. So this has been a part of the corrective actions taken.
Member Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I must say I feel a little bad because the clerk saying that the officer is, on a frolic of his own, and the gentleman is seated right here. I am reiterating the point, Madam Clerk, that it would appear that we are not, in terms of the management structure of the Parliament, we are not talking to each other in terms of the functional issues. And again, the processes need to be put in place. Even if you're abroad, even if you're on vacation, it's important that a structure is in place so that there's proper accountability, proper reporting, persons, because again, the buck stops with you. So to say you aren't here, you're abroad, and I feel a little bad for the officer that is here to say that he's on a frolic, because the overarching management of the Parliament requires that somebody holds all the officers accountable, they report, so that they are not on a frolic of their own. So I appreciate that the corrective actions have been put in place, but again, in my earlier intervention, We need to have the systems in place routinely and consistently so nobody is on a frolic of their own.
And may I respond to that member to state that, again, systems are in place. And I really don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but when you enforce and when you hold people accountable, there's a narrative that you are being vindictive when you hold officers accountable. There's a narrative that officers believe that they're being harassed when there are certain demands for compliance with the systems that exist. And when I stated for the record that I was not here, that was not to justify that I'm trying to absolve myself from my accounting responsibilities. It is to provide background information and to state that at no particular time any approval was given, neither did the officer sought approval from those who were present and could have given that approval. The systems were there, whether or not I am here, and they were not complied with.
Mr. Thomas from the Ministry of Finance.
Thank you, Chair. The Ministry of Finance is a little bit concerned in terms of there are systems that were implemented through circulars, and there was an electronic system, the government financial management system, that should at least assist in ensuring that at least a particular level, compliance is being made when payments are to be done. So I just want to understand that in terms of the requirement is that a commitment requisition is done prior to any form of payment is to be done. A program manager must be the responsible officer that will sign off that commitment requisition to give the go-ahead to even start to communicate with any external person or personnel. So I just want to understand, at what point was the deviation made? Is it that no commitment requisition was signed and no go-ahead was given to the officer to approach a supplier? And then, when payments are to be made, it's clearly outlined, the process flow clearly outlines that a commitment must be done in the actual application, which must be certified, authorized, and updated. That's even before payments start to be made to ensure that monies are available and we're not spending where we don't have any funds. After the commitment is done, then invoices should be coming in. When the invoice comes in, there is a need to certify that or to sign on that invoice that goods were satisfactorily received or services satisfactorily rendered. So I'm trying to understand at this point in time, what took place here, or what was the contract, or what was the bill, or what was the supporting document that was being used to measure what is being paid against what was being requested. I kind of want to hear what happened here, because the Ministry of Finance really want to assist in ensuring that the policies can be strengthened. So I want to understand, was it a total circumventing of not only the policy but actually the system as well? Or I just want to understand how it works so we can strengthen the policy. Because it did say, when we are certifying a transaction, we just want to ensure that the system that is available to the entity right now, it can work. Because if it can't work, then the same thing will happen again. So the ministry wants to strengthen. So I just want to bring to the floor, Chair, that these procedures are in place. So I'm not understanding where the breach took place. I want to understand so we can guide. As a Ministry of Finance, we can provide proper guidance. So if that clarity could be made, the Ministry of Finance would be comforted to provide the guidance required.
What's the point of order? What's the point of order? What's the point of order, Member Clerk?
I am raising a point of order, Mr. Chairman. I thought I heard my colleague said something, so I was waiting. Anyway, the question I want to ask, the gentleman is from Ministry of Finance.
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
You're giving clarity, you're giving us some clarification, or you're asking some questions?
He was asking. He made a statement and he asked some questions.
Is he here in the capacity to question the officer, or is he here to give us
No,
guidelines?
but he can, if there's a particular issue, as the Ministry of Finance.
Mr. Chairman, I'm asking through you to the gentleman, is he here to ask question or to give clarity and clarification to matters that may arise that may be confusing to the members of the committee? No, not you, Cousins. You're not the chairman.
Yeah, but I'm answering. He has the right here to ask a question, to seek clarity. He's representing the Ministry of Finance. He elucidated on his point, but I don't see anything that is out of the norm in terms of what he asks. No, he can ask a question. The Ministry of Finance is here. Their responsibility is to be the stewards of the finances of the country. If they see something or hear something which seems to deviate from process, he has the right to ask that. And he has done so. And I do think he should be answered. I don't see anything improper about what he has asked.
If I may, he also indicated that he wants to assist.
Yeah.
You understand, to ensure that there's not a repeat of what transpired. Yeah. So I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't either. Okay. All right. All right. Madam AG, you wanted to say something on this particular point? Members, please. Hold on, Heather. Press your mic, AG. All right, members, please. Madam AG, press, yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to...
Shh, members.
I just want to provide information based on the clarification requested by the Ministry of Finance, and I'll refer you to page 41 of 4.27.
Cousins.
Yes, page 41 of 49.
Of your report,
Yes,
yeah, go ahead.
Of the report. Paragraph 4.27. And I'm going to read from the second sentence. In relation to this specific matter, the absence of a signed contract by both parties may prevent HOP from enforcing any claims. So we're reiterating that there was no contract in place. And we went on to say that also the required purchase order was not submitted, and the required written attestation from the commitment control officer that the funds were provided and are available for the specific purpose of the proposed expenditure was not presented.
Understood. Members, are there...
Yes, in relation to the motor vehicle accident. Oh, you're moving to another point now.
No, you can ask your question.
Yeah, sure. In relation to the motor vehicle accident, what is the status of the settlement offer? You must read this something.
I know, just help everybody and tell us where you're from.
What page? Look for the something, man. In relation to the motor vehicle accident, what is the status of the settlement offer? Because I see where it was indicated that by September 9th, there would be a recommendation and proposed steps. I've looked at the response from the House of Parliament, and that was omitted in the response. Also, the accident occurred in July 2024. There was no legislative council until September 2025. When was the settlement offer made, and wasn't there any acting legislative council between that time and September that would have allowed us to address this matter? Why would we have to wait until all the way in September of the next year for this matter to be addressed. I find that concerning.
Or the Auditor General wants to say something on this point.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman, because by way of correction, the clerk indicated that she did engage legal counsel, and had provided information that I believe would have been overlooked by us. Because having reviewed this package yesterday, we saw an email thread where she referred the matter to the legal counsel. And I gather that it's by that email that she's saying that she referred it. The challenge is that in responding, the specific correspondence was not referred to and was overlooked when reviewed. So we are satisfied that a referral was made as far back as September, I believe, 2024. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I'm being instructed by the legal counsel that we are waiting an update from Toyota Jamaica to receive the estimate before we can accept it.
Member Cousins, you heard? You heard the answer?
I heard the answer, but I saw an estimate on the file from Toyota Jamaica already. Is it that you need an updated estimate?
One.
Okay. Thank you.
Our members, are there any other questions for the Houses of Parliament? Okay.
One final question for me, Mr. Chair. The issue was raised of the non-submission of the appropriations accounts for about 5 to 6 years. I will not belabor the point in terms of understanding from the Parliament level why that was not done, because it's clear in terms of the processes, inadequacies of the processes. But my question would be to the Minister, the Ministry of Finance, in terms of oversight, because the appropriations accounts, in a sense, ensures that the agencies and ministries are adhering to the fiscal spend and the budgetary allocations of the government. So where we are not getting that from any agency, and it's repeated, 5, 6 years, would not the Ministry of Finance, because there's not a board that oversees the Parliament's operations to detect that, would not the Ministry of Finance be observing that? And why wouldn't they have raised that as an issue before the auditors would have come to identify that as a finding?
Well, before I invite the Ministry of Finance, let me say, Member Brown, it is a chronic issue, and coming out of the Auditor General's annual report, you'll see a number of ministries, departments, and agencies that are way behind. And in fact, that's the discussion we're going to go to next. But what I would ask the Houses of Parliament to do is to give us an update as to a timeline by which you intend to bring the accounts up to date so that we know we can hold you to that particular time frame. And then I'll invite Ms. Blake to comment.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, I was just informed by our Director of Procurement that their branch is awaiting the terms of reference from the Principal Finance Officer, because we have decided that we perhaps should get an external consultant to come in to prepare those back or outstanding reports, which is an inheritance from so we are in the procurement process to ensure that those reports are brought up to date.
All right, what I'm going to ask you, because I know you can't give me the answer to date, that by next week, in writing, you provide to the clerk a time frame for the procurement of the accounting services, and then what is the time frame? I don't know if it's 5 or 6 years that you have outstanding. You have to give us a date by which you believe you'll bring those accounts up to date. All right?
if the, I mean, I understand the corrective measures with the procurement of an external team to deal with it, but is it that the Parliament does not have the capacity? So once this is fixed, will we then be able to, going forward, have the requisite capacity to
do it on our own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on instructions received from the principal finance officer, is that they are continuing to do the work to bring the reports up to date currently, and the consultant will focus on the legacy backlogs that we have inherited. Thank you.
All right, I wanted to allow either Ms. Blake or Member Seabright, if you could just release your mic so I can allow. Yes, go ahead.
With respect to the financial statements, especially the appropriations accounts, the Ministry of Finance does have serious concerns. What the Ministry of Finance does on a monthly basis, it sends out a rating sheet to all entities outlining whether or not they are outstanding, and if they are far outstanding, they would have been issued with a letter indicating that they are outstanding, and also for them to state to the ministry what are the challenges and what are the things that will be put in place to ensure that these statements are up to date. Each year, the Ministry of Finance outlines the concerns and stands ready to partner with the Accountant General's Department if it's a case where training is needed to get the officers up to speed or whatever it is to have the statements done. So it's not that the Ministry of Finance is not aware, it's just sometimes the entities are just not responsive.
Member Seabright, you had a comment? Or,
Yeah, just wanted to point out, Mr. Chairman, that I think we should commend the staff of Parliament for addressing some of the deficiencies highlighted in the Auditor General's report. Clearly, there is no case of systemic fraud or any deliberate wrongdoing by the institution. And clearly, some of these issues have gone on for many years. And I see definitely a clear and coordinated effort to address the issue systematically, and they deserve commendation for doing just that. Thank you.
Okay. Member Morrison.
Thank you, Chair. And what we would not want to see is a headline that says that the FOM was on a frolic of his own. We don't want to see that. Member Bunting used the word expedience, and I think that this is, we just want to, I certainly want to put it out there that this is a classic case of what happened in that instance, and also that this highlights that the thresholds that existed, they were really outdated, they were impossible to work with, but the Auditor General, I'm sure she will say notwithstanding that. So we are actually happy that there is indeed an increase in the threshold that allows us to reasonably, and especially in this time when we know that the costs are very different from the decades ago when those measures were in place. It was virtually impossible to do business. And finally, I want to say, Chair, that it should come out very clearly that the systems in Parliament, the systems of controls and accountability, that they are in place. And what needs to happen is that they need to be properly utilized and observed. Thank you, Madam AG.
Madam AG, you wanted to comment here?
Right, I think the member addressed it with respect to the increase in the threshold. I'm an accounting officer, so of course I would appreciate that increase as well, because I do sit on the other side, as well as being Auditor General. I just want to reinforce, and the member did speak to that a part of the issue was not just the threshold being breached, but the fact that the fiduciary responsibility was not evident. The fact is that the government, because it is the government that was committed albeit it's $3.2 million, but there was no action to ensure that even funds were available. Well, there's no evidence that that was done before committing the government, and that is very important as a part of the stewardship responsibility for all heads of agencies. Thanks.
All right, thank you, members. So I'm going to close, and I'll release the staff and thank the staff from the Houses of Parliament. Members, we're just going to, so you can exit. Members, we're just going to have a quick discussion on the annual report, and if members have, I have some areas that I believe we need to probe further, but I would invite members if there are any specific areas that you believe. I will start. Well, the Ministry of Health will be coming here to deal with the university hospital, right? But there is still a significant backlog in terms of the outstanding appropriation accounts. The Ministry of Local Government that has responsibility for parish councils, there is a chronic issue there with the absence of appropriation accounts. We had the Ministry of Local Government last year, I believe. They gave some commitments in terms of timeframes to bring the accounts up to date, but based on the Auditor General's report, I don't believe we are making progress as quickly as we should. So I certainly believe the Ministry of Local Government should be invited back. The Ministry of Health will come. I also believe the Ministry of Agriculture should be invited. There was a specific issue raised, and in relation to fertilizers, I think they should be invited here on that particular issue. But I would invite members, if there are any coming out of the annual report, if there are specific MDAs that you believe need to be invited to elucidate on issues that arose.
Yes, Chairman, the National Land Agency.
Okay.
I have noted in the report that there are some deficiencies with them accounting, so I think they should be invited to present themselves for us for some further.
Okay, NLA, okay. Yeah. Member Bunton?
Separate from those identified in the Auditor General's report, there's a general lack of observation. If you go to the Cabinet Office website, it lists all it lists the last annual report that was presented to Cabinet for various agencies or government entities. And so, for example, I quoted last week in Parliament, NEPA. A key agency like NEPA has not reported to Parliament from 2015, 2016. Just, you know, how do we continue to accept this just lack of compliance with the law? Yeah, because I'm sure in the law that establishes the National Environmental and Planning Agency requires current reporting, but yet they're 10 years behind. There doesn't seem to be any sanction for it. You know, in fact, you struggle to find one entity in that long list published by the Cabinet Office that is current in its reporting obligations. As a matter of fact, it's just everyone is behind, but to what degree? You know, some are 3, some are 5, some are 10 or more years behind. And I just wonder, is there no penalty? Is there no enforcement? Is there no way we can bring those relevant accounting officers to book for their non-compliance with the law?
That's an important point. It's the same issue with you have raised the annual reports, the same issue with the appropriation accounts. The accounting officers have been here. They have highlighted some of the challenges, transactions that might have predated their own incumbency and the reluctance of current officers to sign off on things. There was an opinion sought from the Attorney General's department because there was a reluctance of officers to sign up on things 10 years in the arrears because they didn't want to be held accountable for stuff they didn't know. But it is a general problem that is across the board. There are some entities that are doing better than others, but you are correct that we shouldn't accept as the norm the level of delinquency that exists. And it's for ministries, departments, agencies, and it's I wonder, just following up on what you have said, Member Bunting, whether it would be the Cabinet Office or an appropriate body that should be invited here to have a discussion about that, because there are genuine challenges that exist for some of the entities, personnel, lack of appropriate personnel, other things. And I think it's important that this committee probes that particular issue, both for the annual reports and the absence of the appropriation accounts in many cases. And the appropriation accounts is pretty bad because you're just unable to provide an opinion on the state of the entity without those accounts. And in many cases, you know, in parish councils, they just don't have the records, which is even more concerning. So I would, as a committee, I think we should invite, whether it's the Cabinet Office or the appropriate entity, to look at that. Is there any other business, members? No? We will confirm the date of the next meeting. I just want to bring your attention to the status report, which indicates the deadline that we have asked entities to provide their responses by. And once those have been received, we will schedule meetings shortly thereafter. Can I have a motion for the adjournment? Moved by Clark, seconded by Cuthbertman. Thank you very much, members.
On Jamaica's development, tune in to the post-cabinet press briefings, Wednesdays live at 9 a.m. with a rebroadcast at 9 p.m. right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.
Cook it up and make we steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought, so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. A tilapia, so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh, so me need it. Tilapia, a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein, and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious. What a flow, what a flow. What a flow, what a flow. Come on. What a flow, what a flow. What a flow, what a flow. The water put it just like a freestyle. The lifeblood flowing mile by mile. It's legacy, a beat that don't stop like Bob Marley say. One love on top. The sewage water out of sight, but it's always wrong, don't lose the light. From factories and wells so deep, corals, mangroves and fish they weep. Green water for the garden, keep it green. Save the cash and the earth gets clean. We use the water with a mindful mind. It's out of sight but never far behind. In nature, the answers always flow. Like water running pure, the cycle grows. It renews itself, same drop, same beat. It's all good, man, you got the heat. Water flow, water flow. No clean water, no pipes they grow. Protect our water, protect our future.
Time to go. Greetings, Jamaica and reggae lovers worldwide. Welcome to our coverage of Jamaica Reggae Month 2026. I'm your host, Bree, and we're coming to you with Reggae This Week, a week-by-week itinerary as we kick off this spectacular month-long celebration of our island's greatest cultural export. This year's theme, Come Catch the Rhythm, and trust me, we have a rhythm for everyone this February. Before we move forward, let's rewind to Reggae Month 2025. What a celebration that was! Last year, we saw a record-breaking attendance at the Young Reggae Ambassadors, which was a spectacular event filled with performances that brought together legends and emerging artists on one stage. The Jaria Reggae Month lecture series continued to educate hundreds of students across the island about music business, copyright, and the global impact of Jamaican music. 2025 will be remembered for its deep reverence for reggae icon Dennis Brown. The gathering held in his honor became a meeting point for international fans, with attendees arriving from Japan, Germany, Brazil, and more, each drawn by the timeless music and message of the Crown Prince of Reggae, a true testament to reggae's global influence. We're starting strong February 1st with not one, not two, but 4 events. At 9 a.m., the Reggae Month church service takes place at Fellowship Tabernacle, bringing together faith and reggae in perfect harmony. Then, at 2 p.m., the Institute of Jamaica Lecture Theatre hosts Ground Nation Week 1, where scholars and culture bearers will dive deep into the roots of our music. But the real vibes kicks off in the evening. Dennis Brown is getting his flowers with the Dennis Brown Gathering, and the Essence of Reggae Music Festival will have you moving to those authentic rhythms. It's a full day of celebration. Now, the young minds aren't left out. On February 4th, the Jaria Reggae Wednesday comes to Edna Manley College, and the very next day, February 5th, Jaria Reggae Open University hits. Check our mobile app for the venue. These sessions are crucial for our youth to understand the business and artistry behind reggae music. And for the old school massive, Friday, February 6th is your night. The Tribute to Bob concert paired with the Waves 1 Love Jerk Fest Day 1 at Waves Beach in the Grill. Imagine good music, great food, and the beach breeze. Saturday the 7th continues with the Waves 1 Love Jerk Fest with Day 2. What more could you ask for? Now, Reggae Month isn't just about Kingston and major venues. All across Jamaica, communities are organizing their own celebrations. Check your local community centers, schools, and churches for events happening in your area. This year, we're calling on everyone to participate. Whether you're organizing a sound system clash in your community, a reggae art exhibition at your school, or a documentary screening at your church, let us know. Tag us on social media or download the Reggae Jamaica mobile app to add your event and make your community part of this national celebration. Remember, reggae music was born in the inner city neighborhoods and grassroots communities of Kingston. It belongs to all of us. Every parish and every community carries its own story of how this music has shaped our lives. That wraps up the first episode of Reggae This Week. Remember to follow us on social media at JCDC Jamaica and PBC Jamaica for live updates. Remember to download the Reggae Jamaica mobile app for full event details, vendor information, and special announcements. This show is powered by Chase, supporting Jamaican culture every step of the way. Come catch the rhythm. We'll see you next week with more reggae vibes. One love.
Peace is a choice we make every day. When we come together with love and understanding, we create a future free of violence and fear. Let's stand united, build bridges, and nurture hope for our children and our communities.
More of your money is now tax-free? Know that the income tax threshold has been increased. Your government is looking after you responsibly, so our economy can do even more for you.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Embark on a journey to discover the truth that sets us free. Join us on Tomorrow's World, your weekly source of hope, answers, and divine insight. Sundays at 9 a.m. with rebroadcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:30 a.m. Tune in right here on PBCJ, the People's Station, and be inspired.
Now that you're speaking out, do more. Do more. Help fight crime. Do the right thing and report what you know. Do the right thing and publicly demand change. Hold government accountable for better governance. Protect your environment and health. Do the right thing and keep your community clean. If we all do the right thing and build integrity, Jamaica will be the place to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Then this is all you're giving me? What you expect my belly to do with this? You even give all 4 more meat than me.
Papa man.
Sergeant, this is not a pigsty. Behave yourself.
It's me put food on the table.
Not you one. I weed grass, plus I plant peas.
And what you do?
Just keep looking good.
You go have to learn to use pickaxe.
I'm a falcon.
Shut your face in it here.
Sergeant, food is in your mouth.
Then where you expect it to be? But I'm a falcon. But I'm not dying with a falcon.
What of the surges? Eh? What of the surges? The whole village is plastered and name with mud because your mother and your daughter is moving from one house to the next like them is gypsy.
What? So it's not your daughter too?
A crying shame and disgrace, that mother of yours. Imagine, gone to wash clothes for an ordinary man and drag my daughter in it with her? Well, it's not going to go so. I going to raise the roof off a Branson house.
Shut your mouth. You keep quiet. When Branson come here first, it was all over him. You worship at his feet. That's the man for me, daughter. That's what you always say.
Papa man, you better talk about that unpleasant thing now.
It's not unpleasant one, damn.
Don't shout at him.
Yes, you know how to shout.
Damn it! This is my house, and I shout as I like. You know what, boy? You better get out. You have to find a room somewhere. I'm tired of this damn foolishness. I can't feed him no more.
I can feed him. Excuse me. Sit down. If him go, I go.
Well, there is the door. There is the gate at the end of the walkway. The people can pack up and go on. First, let me look after me.
And your worthless mama.
Don't you call me mother worthless. Damn feisty.
Papa.
Don't papa me. I'm not your papa. I don't want your papa me. I don't want no falcon papa me. God shut him eyes upon me. Cause what? Sin, sin, sin. A village of sin. And will not cause me to be swimming in it.
You junk surgery.
Lust, lawlessness and immorality is the alcohol that you spit on me. You started. Don't you forget that.
Sammy, is the downfall of the surges. Eh? Is me why your mother running from one yard to the next? Is me why your daughter pregnant for Falcon? Is me why...
Yes! It's through you why this hatred come about. Of all your 3 pickinny, Purcell is the only one that is left to redeem you.
Don't just talk to my mother like that.
Oh! So, you're not her son anymore. You was her husband. I could have boxed you. True Mother Falcon get you free. You think you was next in line to the Falcon throne. But you look at me like you want to box me down.
Sergi!
He is a dirty boy. He is a damn dirty boy.
Him is not dirty.
It's not Branson that got to Falcon wife. It's him, your son. One Falcon take the place of Peter Falcon.
Lie. Lie. How lie? It was Branson.
No, Mama, it was me.
So it can't talk truth? A brother, you have to talk the truth for once.
But I didn't sleep with her.
Lord of his mercy upon me.
It's Safa sent me. She did pay me.
What was that for?
So much trouble for me. Every time I think I left the valley clean behind me, with the dirt and the filth and the yabba pot full of phobia, it just turned out that me just lying to myself. It's only when I see you I feel like a mountain in the cockpit country.
What more do you want from me?
Nothing. I don't want your house, your money, or your land anymore. I just want you all for myself. If not, I'm going to turn into a limestone hill.
They will just have to make a quarry out of you. You can't have me.
So you sound so cruel without even thinking about what I say.
I bring you money.
To hell with it.
You need it?
No. I need to be under your shirt. My fingers around your heart. And my toes tearing your sheets. I have lips, tongue, eyes. Falcon, you is blind? Put more practice in sinning, then you can bake sweeter bread. Just learn to love me. Then we will have no more daytime or nighttime. Hill or gully. Just loving the two away. What you say? I tell you, Falky.
Don't Falky me.
Where go away?
Behaving like an animal.
Listen. Jenny's back. She want money. Give her money and she will go home. Evadne will go to Branson. Your house will be empty except for cockroaches and cobweb. You will even want me to stand in the corner of your house like a used broom. When the papa goes stand behind you, maybe sweep it out. Cause what? Your mother go and bring in Balfour in the family to take your place. But with me, all the fires of hell would blaze and scorch lips of anyone that speak badness against you.
You make me shudder and want to vomit.
Me can make you throw your timidness in the Black River and make your business jump, slap, bam from here to New Kingston and stretch beyond Spanish Town and Portmore. Falcon, what is wrong with you? Why you love to waste time with them fenke gal pitney, left in your business unattended? Me can wash your feet with me sweat. If only you just let me inside your house. I can't say no more. You won't need a gun if you have me.
You have all the ambition of to find a woman, but I can't love you.
I'm not talking about love. I'm talking about power. Power and more power. Falcon Hardware, Falcon Bakery. Oh no, Falcon Industries. That's when people hear about Falcon and really mean Jamaica.
I like that.
Let me meet your mother.
For what?
She's the nail in your tire.
She's not.
I can't talk to her. Find a way to keep her out of your life.
Maybe I could like you.
Kiss me again.
No.
and bring back everything.
Bask in the awesome Word of God and the life-changing experience of fellowship. Bask in the revival time, 8 a.m. on Sundays, right here on the People's Station.
You never put up a fight, no.
I'm so easy, me easy, cool and me calm. Love you, girl. Let me give you all. When me looking at your eyes, me see the possibilities. And me not gonna tell you lies and give you broken promises.
You not love the youth, you shoot them pan side. No respect for the roots, you shoot them aside.
Cause a long time we a rocky Tina down. Me say a long time we a skanky Tina down. Inna me blood, Marcus Garvey, inna me blood, inna me blood, inna me blood, Bob Marley, inna me blood.
Struggle like a real soldier, just like the Prince of Ethiopia. Right there in Kingston, Jamaica, from King Street to Princess Street.
Send the something and come back. Back to sender. God, I thank you so much.
Miracles await and miracles abound. Tune in every Sunday at 7 a.m. for your share of the Miracle Revival Hour with Reverend Dr. Blair. Come for the word, stay for the worship. Right here on PBCJ.
Miracle worker, work one for me.
See you.